What's going on, everybody? It's Chris from Profoto USA, and today I am live with you to talk about the NarrowBeam Reflector. I'm a little bit froggy, so I apologize for that. I was at WPPI the last 3 days, and I did a lot of talking, and now I'm froggy. So pardon the scratchy throat, but we're going to do a live, and we're going to talk about the NarrowBeam Reflector. So we've done a lot of talking so far about things like just the Zoom 2 reflector, the Magnum reflector, the tele zoom and the wide zoom. This is another one of the reflectors that's in our lineup of hard reflectors. And once again, when we call them a hard reflector, it's not necessarily because the characteristic of light they give off is hard. It's literally because they're made out of metal. So it's just a hard reflector. The NarrowBeam does exactly what its name says. It broadcasts a narrow beam. Now, you do have a lot of different looks with the zoom function because it does have the ability to zoom with our zoom scale like the other hard reflectors. And I will show you guys the angle pattern right here, but if you look at the sticker on the top of it, like I've said before, all the hard reflectors come with this sticker right here that, obviously tells you the name of the unit. But if you look here, there is beam angle measurement. So when you pair or when you actually zoom the NarrowBeam to that number, you're going to get that beam pattern. Now, for me personally, I'm still kind of a stickler for these hard reflectors being used with the dome because that's kind of how they were designed when we originally did them. So I still use them with the dome. I've done some testing. The differences are negligible without the dome, but because I know the differences a little bit, I tend to go the dome route. So, but what we're going to do is we'll pop this thing, the modeling lamp on this thing, and I'll show you the beam angle. So it goes from a beam angle of about 70 degrees wide at its widest and pretty diffused to at a zoom position of 9. Granted, if you're using something like the D2 like I'm using or the B1X, you obviously only have a zoom position of 8. So you're going to be kind of in between the two measurements that it gives you at 7 and 9. At 7, you would be at 45 degrees. At 9, you would be at 25 degrees. So my guess is at 8, you'd be around 35 degrees. So you can still get a pretty tight beam angle. It's also got a polished interior, so it's really, really efficient. You're talking 1 to 2 stops light increase, just like you would expect out of the Magnum reflector and the telezoom reflector. So incredibly efficient modifier, and it really has a cool look to it. So I'm going to flip this thing around and point the modeling lamp at the seamless so you guys can actually see what it looks like when you actually zoom the unit through the scale. So like I said, once again, on the zoom scale, when you read it at 5, it's going to be a 50 degree or a 70 degree beam spread. Then you're going to get at 7, you're going to be at 45, and at 9 you would be at 25. Like I said, we can't get to 9. We'll get to about 8 or a little past 8, but not quite 9. So we'll be in that, between 25 and 35 range. So let's turn this sucker around. I have it on a D2 so we can use the halogen modeling lamp and you can really, really see what it's doing. So turn this bad boy around. Once again, if you're just joining me, I apologize for my incredibly scratchy throat. And I do appreciate all of you guys who came by and saw me at WPPI. It means a ton to me. It was really, really awesome. You're putting some faces to some of these names. So let's kick on the modeling lamp. Let's make sure I have this thing set to full power. Yep, we're full power there. So if I zoom this thing out, undo the rubber clamp, and we go to a zoom position of 4. And I'm actually going to go a little ahead of 4. But you can see it's kind of wide, that 70 degree spread. There's not a huge hot spot between, the main hot spot of the unit is somewhere between here and over here. So it throws the light pretty wide, which is nice. But as I start to back it up, so then we're going to hit the 4 position, which doesn't have information on the sticker. But as we zoom back to 5, you can see it tightening up a little bit, and that's a 70 degree beam spread. And just so you know, when we're calculating beam spread, we're actually calculating it from the center of the beam to when we lose a stop on each side. So that's how we come up with the beam spreads. So then as you start backing up to 6, you're going to see it start to spot down a little bit. Then at 7, you're around 45 degrees, hit 8. And like I said, we're probably about 35 degrees, and I have a little more room to back it up. And you can see it really, really starting to spot out right there. You can get a really nice tight beam of light. And you see the hot spots like right here. So once again, you can really, really focus and narrow that light down and really point the light at what you want. Really, really, it's a hard light, so it's really punchy. It's a really beautiful quality of light, and I'm actually gonna fire off some shots of me with it. I'm just gonna boom it up over my camera right here so we can see that. But let me see if you guys have any questions so far. Let me pull up there we go. Pardon me, hang on just a second. Let me actually back out of this so I can have it all in one place. That would make me very happy. There we go. Oh, Kelly, what's up? Michael, what's up? Oh, from Italy in the house on a Saturday afternoon in America. Cool. Let's get it on. I like it. What's up, Latvia? Profoto needs a buyback / upgrade program. Want to get rid of my new B2 kit for the B10 kit, possibly upgrade my. I mean, I can always tell the higher ups that that's something that people are looking for, but you could also try selling it on the open market. I mean, you probably honestly would get more money from it that way anyway, because anytime that a company needs to buy and us included if we did it, anytime a company is going to need to buy your product, we'll also have to resell it, and we'd have to make money on it too. So you might actually just be better off selling it firsthand as opposed to secondhand. So just something to think about. But I will absolutely tell the higher ups that that's something that customers are looking for. So thanks for the request. Cool. So like I said, really, really nice tight beam spread at a little past 8 on the zoom scale. So I'm going to back up the D2. I've got my trigger release right here. We're going to fire off a couple shots just so you guys can see what it looks like on a person's face. So let's get after it. So cool. Let's back. The one thing that I always run into is I'm so used to using all the wireless stuff, and I love the D2. I love it very much. Before the B10 came out, it was absolutely my favorite flash that we made. But I still get handicapped by the cord sometimes. So and that's what's happening right now. So let's boom this sucker up a little bit. Make sure it's out of the frame of my camera. Roller stands are a godsend in a studio, guys. If you don't have roller stands, maybe think about getting a roller stand. These things make life very easy. So cool. Let's boom the NarrowBeam up. Maybe you guys can see it. Maybe you can't. I'm not 100% sure. But we're going to take the first shot out here. I'm going to kick the modeling lamp on just so I can kind of see. Oh, I didn't even kick the modeling lamp. I think I actually turned it off. So let's make sure we're firing here. Air mode on. Channel 1. Test good. I'm going to pop a TTL mode shot. Awesome. So cool. Let's see what we are looking like. Oh, what's up from the Dominican Republic? What's happening? Cool. So let's see. Got it pointed right at me. It's probably, I'm about 5'9", 5'10"-ish. So it's probably sitting about 6'2". So it's a little over my head, but pointing directly at me. So let me get my remote release fired up. And so here comes the first shot. Just so you guys know, camera settings, f8, 2/50th of a second, and ISO, I think I'm at 200. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll look at the thing in a second, but the settings that I'm normally at, so it's 160 or 200. So here we go, 3, 2, 1. Let's see. Cool. So that is me looking like a serial killer at a zoom position of 4. So let me just confirm that that's where I was. Oh no. Wow. I totally botched that. I apologize. So I'm actually going to go a little bit ahead of 4. Super sorry about that, guys. So let's try to tone the creep factor down a little bit on this next shot. So we go. 3, 2, 1. So this shot right here is at 4. So it's a little over. I'm probably going to just leave it in TTL mode. And you know what I'm going to do? Let me back my flash exposed comp off down on the camera. That way while TTL mode's going, it'll compensate back a little bit. And that will make life just peachy. So if you didn't know, you can, in TTL mode, you can use flash exposure compensation on your cameras. And that will control the power of your stuff. So If you are not using flash exposure compensation, you should use it because that's the best way for it to work. So cool, here we go. So I'm flash expose compensate down one stop just so we can pull back the brightness and really see what it looks like. So here we go, 3, 2, 1. Let's see what happens. There we go, that's better exposed. So you can see that at the, hey Jordan, it was great to see you too, man. Thank you so much. Hey, Pete's in the house. What's up, brother? So cool. So you can see the narrow beam at a little past 4 is pretty wide. It's got a nice even beam spread. So now we're going to start to tighten it back up, and then we'll obviously put them all together and compare the shots. So we're going to go to a zoom position of the first reading on the chart of 70 degrees is actually at a zoom position of 5. So we are going to pop the narrow beam at a zoom position of 5. And let's take the next shot. Hopefully I'm standing in the right place. I forgot to put down a piece of gaff as my marker. So let's see what happens. Here we go, 3, 2, 1. Awesome. So you can see starting to tighten up a little bit. It's not obviously is not as much information on the background, which is kind of cool. So now let's go even more narrow on the beam. So we are just at a zoom position of 5. That comes out to be a 70-degree beam spread. Let's go to 7 because that's the next thing on the zoom scale, and this is 45 degrees. So, and once again, we're going to take all these shots and then we're going to put them all together, and that way we can see the differences between the different settings. And you can really see how you can spot out something with a narrow beam. It's a really, really cool reflector. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Cool. Let's see. It's starting to vignette out even more, which is kind of cool because once again, it's gonna keep narrowing that beam up. So I'm gonna zoom past 9, and like I said, apologize again for the froggy throat. I'm gonna zoom past the 8 mark. It should get me close to 9. So I'm gonna go ahead and just say that we're probably right at about 25 degrees. So on the zoom scale of the narrow beam, 9 is kind of what they're talking about is the tightest of the actual light spread. So we're going to take a shot now of that, and then we're going to compare them. So let's do that. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Sweet. Oh, so also, and let's just make sure, I want to see what the power we're at. Oh, we're at 6.2. So that one overexposed a little bit. So I'm going to see if we can get one that's not so overexposed. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. So if it is, I'm just going to pop demand. Yeah. So at the beam angle of 9, at the tightest beam angle, you actually are the most efficient with it. So it's really, really going to start to crank. So I'm just going to go here and I'm going to back it down 2 stops. Let's go 1.5 stops. To make sure that we have some consistency between the shots so you guys can actually see what it looks like. So here we go. There we go. Cool. So let's pull all these up, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to see what you guys are doing. What's up? Can this reflector be used with the B10? And is there any drawback because it's not OCF? So the only thing that I think would probably be the drawback, it would work with a B10. And you know what? I've got my B10 as my background light right here. I can take it and we'll put it on the B10 on NarrowBeam so you can kind of see what it looks like. One of the bigger things is going to be you're not going to have as much. Oh goodness gracious! Kicking my laptop. So one of the things that you're not going to have is you're not going to quite have the zoom scale that you would have with something like the B1X or the D2 or a Pro head for that instance, where you can actually go all the way to 10. So, but the cool thing is that you still have some of the zoomability, and you actually have some settings that you don't have on like the B1X and the D2, and that means you have a zoom scale of 1, 2, 3, and 4. Whereas all of those start at 4. So you might have some other looks at the front end, and we'll look at those too. So in the meantime, before we do that, let's just pull up all of the shots between, and that way we can compare them. Right? Yep, that should be good. Okay, cool. So when you look at this right here on this, and let's open up the window a little bit more so you guys can see it. If I go totally full screen, I lose my chat box, and I don't like that. So, and let me actually just kind of shove it out of the way right here. So, on your standard, like I said, a little bit before 4, you can see it's a really wide beam spread. It's covering the background quite well. And then as you start to zoom it, and this is right at the beginning of the zoom scale. So when you start getting right to the setting, I think this was at 5, which is like the first little tidbit of information, which says 70 degrees, it already starts to tighten up a lot. And then, didn't mean to zoom that. Sorry about that, guys. So then right here, we're at the zoom scale of 7, which is a 35-degree beam angle. You can see it's really starting to vignette out. And then here at about 9, it's 25 degrees. You're vignetting a little bit more. And then once again, you obviously saw the increase in efficiency. I had to back it down to half a stop. And that was even with a flash exposure compensation down. So it is really, really efficient at that setting. So cool. So hopefully that was pretty awesome. We're going to try this now with the B10 because Jose gave us a great idea. So let me kill the light coming off of the B10 really quick. Oh, good catch. Sweet. Let's roll this sucker out here. So what we'll do is we will actually, I'm going to turn on the modeling lamp and we'll see how it actually zooms as well, just so we can see that visually, and then we'll take a couple of shots and see what that looks like too. So let's take this off the D2, and I actually need to turn it off. Or actually, I guess, I know I'm on different channels, so maybe I'll just change channels that we don't have to worry about it. So let's go to channel 7, because that's what I was using at WPPI. Sweet. All right, cool. So the other thing that might be a touch of a disadvantage is that the collar on the stuff that's non-OCF is a lot longer, so you may not actually get as much of a variation in looks that you would with like the D2 that has a little bit longer neck. But we'll see what happens. Anything's worth a go. So I'm gonna set this at a zoom position of 1. Kick this modeling lamp all the way on. So the zoom position of 1 is pretty wide. As I start to zoom it back, we're at 2, 3, 4, and a little bit past 4. So it doesn't really look like it gives you too much variation. It may actually, I'm trying to see if I can see without turning my lights off. It may actually look about the same. I think one of the things that we're probably going to notice when we fire this thing off here in a second is that it, I'm pretty sure that the only thing it really does is vignettes the background a little bit more, because it's starting to, and just so you guys can see what I'm going to say, it starts to vignette the background because when you're at that zoom position of 1, back this up so you can see what I'm talking about. At that zoom position of 1, the flat front's really, really deep inside the narrow beam. So you're getting a lot of light bouncing around here, which is nice because it's still polished, so you're maintaining some of that, and as it's kind of bouncing around, it's coming out here. But I really think that you're seeing a vignette, we'll see a vignette from that, but we're going to look because it can't hurt. So let's do it. All right, boom this up about the same height, mostly the same position. It's going to be a little bit closer to me, but because my camera's still set the way that it's set, it should, we're still a full stop turn down, so let's see what happens. Oh, make sure I think my camera went to sleep. Yeah, there we go. Every time we do this, I say that I'm going to set the camera to not go to sleep, but apparently I can't actually remember to do it. So here we go, remote release, ready to rock and roll. So B10, narrow beam reflector, zoom position of 1. Here we go. Let's see what that looks like. Underexposed. So let's boost. Oh, you know what? It was because I was in manual mode. When I put it in manual mode to make that adjustment on the D2, we were in manual mode. So let's redo that again. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, that was much better. Cool. So that's your zoom position of 1. My serial killer face in full effect. And let's skip ahead to 3, because if you know what, let's just skip all the way past 4. So what I would suspect would be about 5. And let's see what happens. So at 5, the front element of the B10 is totally even with the NarrowBeam. So it's like a perfectly concave bowl at that point. So we're just going to skip and go to the extremes. 1, and then all the way up to what I would suspect would be right around 5, because there is a little bit of throw past the 4. So let's go here. 3, 2, 1. And let's see what we're looking like. Okay, so it does look like, let's go right here and grab these. So here's your difference on your B10, Jose, between a zoom position of 1 and a zoom position of about 5. So you can see I have much more of a vignette. So it is spotting it out a little bit. It's I should have checked the power between the two shots to see how the efficiency changed, but I forgot to. I apologize. So, but zoom position of 1, we're clearly more vignetted out, and then as I suspected, as the front element of the B10 came closer to the back, to the actual opening of the NarrowBeam reflector, you have a really wide beam spread. So, and that's zoom position of 5. And so on the zoom position of 5 on the sticker, I've been saying so many numbers I can't remember anything. So the zoom position of 5 is showing 70 degrees. So it's actually, it looks, so I mean, if I actually, let's just do this. This is a better test. So there's that one with the D2, and then here they are. So this shot right here was shot with the D2 at a zoom position of 5. And this one right here was shot with the B10 at a zoom position of 5. So they're pretty similar. I would say the B10 probably throws a touch wider. They look pretty identical. You probably have a little bit more of an opened up hotspot here, and the vignette's a little thinner. So there's a difference. I wouldn't say that the B10 really gives you the full effect that the NarrowBeam reflector can do. I think you really need those longer zoom ranges to really start to do what the NarrowBeam can actually do. So the B10, you can get a couple of looks out of it, but I don't think you're going to get as drastic of a change as you would get if you were using one of the lights that have a little bit longer on the zoom scale. So hopefully that was good information for you. Let's see if you guys have any more questions. Let's see. Oh, Melbourne. Oh, Melbourne. I can't remember how to say it, but oh, it's Vicky. What's up, Vicky? My buddy Ian told me how to say it, and I can't remember how to say it, so I apologize, Vicky. Just tell Ian that he didn't teach me correctly. Let's see. Can you show what you're adjusting? It's out of frame. Okay, cool. So for anybody who didn't see it, so earlier I was showing you that we have a zoom scale on our stuff. So what I'm going to do, let me get this B10 out of the way. Let me roll my D2 back in here, because I've got a little bit more on the zoom scale. I've got this grip arm hanging off the back of it. My producer / significant other told me that I should fix it. I told her it wasn't a big deal. As usual, she's right. So, what can you do? Just listen, I guess. So cool. Zoom scale. And this is what I was talking about. So just so you can see the difference between the B10 and the D2. You have a much shorter zoom scale on the B10. And that's why we weren't getting as dramatic. I think I might be out of frame a little bit. We weren't getting as dramatic of a difference between, because like I said, that's a pretty short throw as opposed to the longer zoom scale on the D2. And this is also what I was talking about. So, and you can actually see it here. So even though you see the number 8 right here, the actual line that runs through the 8 is the thing that is the parking spot for the zoom reflector. So you can actually push it. So if I went to the line on the 8 like I was talking about, we'd be right about there. So this is what I was talking about, where I think I'm probably about a zoom position of 9, because I can still push it about the same as a zoom scale between 7 and 8 back further. So that's why I'm thinking that I probably am at the 9, and we just didn't have room to put a sticker there. So sweet. You almost actually have the zoom scale that you have of the Pro heads, which is, they go to 10. So what I was talking about whenever I was changing stuff was just simply zooming the head of the flash. And so if I took this and pointed it towards the background, we did this just a little bit earlier, but you can see with the modeling lamp kicked on, at a zoom position of what I would suspect would be about 3, whereas the light's really, really flat. As I start to back it up, we get to 4, and you see it tightening down a little bit, and as we get to 5, we're at that first unit of measurement on the sticker, which is 70 degrees. We keep backing it, backing it, backing it. We hit 7, and at 7, we're spotted out to about 35 degrees. Was it 35? 45, sorry about that, 45 degrees. Off a little bit. 8 is what I suspect is about 35 degrees, and then you push it back, and you have a pretty tight beam of light spread right there, which, if we are at 9, like I feel like we probably are, it's a 25 degree beam spread. So hopefully that answered the question. I should have made it more clear what I was doing when I was starting to shoot, so thank you for the heads up on that one. I really appreciate it. And then let's see, before we sign off, if you guys have any other questions. Vicky, I love that you love your B10. They're literally my favorite flash that we make, and the D2 is my other favorite. Like I'm getting toyed with 2 of my favorite lights. So Ian is the best. So cool. Hopefully that was. I'm just making sure that I hadn't missed any questions before I get out here and enjoy the rest of my Saturday, and I hope you guys do too. Let's see, Marilyn in the house. What's up, Enrique? Cool. It's all my favorite people. So Kevin, what's happening? So hopefully that was some awesome information for you guys. It's just a really, really cool reflector, and I wanted you guys to see it because, like I said, we've gone through the zoom and the magnum and the tele zoom. It's really super duper efficient. So you're getting about the same 2-stop power increase that you would be getting out of like the tele zoom, or you'd be getting out of the magnum reflector. It just gives you a little bit different beam spread. So it's one of those things that you can decide, what it is that you like. We used to make one called the NarrowBeam travel reflector. I don't think we make it anymore. It's a little bit smaller. It's kind of easy to work with. I think the one thing, if you guys run across one, to remember, they don't quite look the same because the travel it's about this much smaller. So while it still gives you a lot of the characteristics of the NarrowBeam, it's a little bit different because the way that it catches reflections is different. So if you run across one and you snag a good deal on it, just know that it is a little bit different. But they're all a little bit different, and that's kind of why it's cool just to showcase between them all so you can see what the differences are, what makes them special. Especially because I know that most people are always talking about, even me, talking about umbrellas and soft boxes and stuff like that, grids, but not a lot of people realize that we have such cool hard reflectors. So hopefully that was cool information. Once again, I'm going to check one more time to make sure nobody has any questions because I don't want to leave anybody out. It does say new messages, so let's see what happens. Let's see. Can you show a comparison with the NarrowBeam with the zoom reflector? Sure, let me just hunt down my zoom reflector really fast. Okay, sorry, off camera, but we're still talking. Got my Zoom 2 here. See what they look like in comparison. So I have the photos. I could snap a couple of photos if you want me to, but I think we'd probably be fine just looking at the beam spread pattern. So if you look at the actual sticker here at a zoom position of 10, which we can't, like I said, with these lights, we can't quite get to. It's actually a really, and I don't know how well you can see this, but it's a really even spread of light in a pretty big pattern. So you could actually line a group of people up in a straight line and put this at a zoom position of 10 if you could, and you could illuminate them all right across, which would be really, really cool. Like I said, we only get to about 9, and that's 105 degrees at 10. At 7, we're at 75 degrees. So, and the difference between the two is at 7, we're at 45 degrees. So we're 30 degrees tighter on the NarrowBeam than we are with the standard zoom reflector. And then when we get to 6, we're actually at 35 degrees on the zoom and 70 on the NarrowBeam. So they actually work opposite of one another. So as this one gets closer to the small numbers, it gets tighter. As the NarrowBeam gets closer to the bigger numbers, it actually gets tighter on the beam spread. But we're going to look at it right now with the with the modeling lamp. So let me take off this grid and filter holder. If you guys were wondering what that was on the front of the zoom, it was a grid and filter holder. I've done a live on that, so if you want to go back and check it, you can. So it's on, should be on our Facebook page, ready to go. So once again, just so you can kind of see how it works. And you know what, let's go in a little bit closer, and maybe the differences will be a little more dramatic. So at a little bit before 4, we're pretty wide, pretty even across the board. As we start to back it up, you can see the beam start to come in, and then boom, look how tight that is right there. I mean, it's literally like that. So now let's go to the Zoom 2 reflector. Also, so you can see the size difference. The size difference between the two is pretty big. So that being said, too, I'll tell you another reason why that's important to know. So at that same zoom position, where you're a little bit closer, so a little bit further out, like 3.2-ish range, you're going to see that you're spotted out a lot more. And as you start to back it out, it starts to even out a ton. So it does, like I said, the exact opposite of the NarrowBeam reflector. What might be beneficial for you with that, and why this might be important, is, and this might be for you, Jose, with the B10, if you're looking for more of that spotted light, you'd probably be better off putting the Zoom 2 on the B10, just because at those shorter numbers, like you have on the B10, you spot it out. So let's actually throw this on there and just see what happens, just so we can go apples to apples. So here we go, about the same position. So this is at 1. So you can see the actual spot. It's a pretty good vignette. It has a little bit of feathering right here on the edge from where it's kind of bouncing around inside the dish. As we back it up to 2, 3, 4. It doesn't change too much. The hot spot fades a little bit. It's actually probably got more of a hot spot around 3, 4 than it does anywhere else, even though it's zoomed into 1, 2. So you can spot the light a little bit more with the B10 and the Zoom 2 reflector. So hopefully that helped you there too, Jose. So let me see if you guys have any other questions. Let's see. Yeah, video after WPPI, man. As you can tell, my throat shot, but I didn't get to see some of you guys there, so I get to see you here on the live. So that's what we're doing. So hey, what's up, JDP? So yes, the narrow grids. Who asked me about the grid question? Vumaro. Cool. So yes, there is one grid for the NarrowBeam. It's actually the exact same grid for the NarrowBeam, the Magnum reflector, and the telezoom. If I'm not mistaken, let me look it up really fast. So you don't have to go to my computer, Kate. Let me pop over here. I'm pretty sure it's a 10-degree grid, but I just want to make sure I'm giving you the right information because I would feel terrible if I didn't. So sometimes I just can't keep up with all the numbers. So thanks for letting me do this really fast. So the grid's a great question too, because I wasn't even actually thinking about that. One other cool thing that you can do that I've done with the Magnum reflector and stuff too, if you have the sock from the beauty dish, you can actually throw that over the front of it too and get a little more diffusion out of it if it's getting too specular for you. So let's get in here to products. Light shaping tools. We have a ton of information too on these light shaping tools. So if I pop over to reflectors, I can get over here to the NarrowBeam and the grids. It is, here it is, the grid for the Magnum telezoom. Yes, I was right, 10 degrees, perfect, I nailed it. Sweet, so there is a 10-degree grid available, and you can buy one grid, and if you have multiple reflectors, you can just move it between all 3 of them, so that's kind of cool. Like I said, there is a travel NarrowBeam, but it's smaller, doesn't fit. Also, that doesn't fit the wide zoom, because it's actually a little bit smaller as well. So, let's see, once again, let's see if you guys have any questions. If not, I'm out of here. Let's do this. Oh, Vicky, yeah, we missed you too. So, sorry we couldn't see you at WPBI this year, but hopefully we will get to see you at some point. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that's the other thing I want to say. Thank you so much. Was that Brian? That was Brian. Thank you. That's one thing that I wanted to touch on. So the other big difference between the two, if you're looking for a crisper line off of your subject, like if you're trying to use the subject shadow as an element in the photo, if you're looking for a crisper line, the rule always is the smaller the light source is in relationship to the subject, the harder the light. So if it's between these two, obviously you would want to go the zoom reflector route because you're going to get a smaller light source. This, it is a larger light source for the most part, so it will start to feather on the edges a little bit. So if you're looking for a really tight source, this could be it, but you can remember too that you could back this up a little bit further because it's still really efficient. Same with this. So it really just depends on what lights you have available. Like I said, if you're doing this with a B10 and you're trying to get a little more vignetted out, you might want to go the route of the Zoom 2 reflector. But if you have like a B1X or a D2 or a D1 that has a little more zoom capability, you might want to go the NarrowBeam. So you have choices. But that's one of the things you want to pay attention to is the difference from that feather of the shadow. And that a lot of that comes from just simply the size of the modifier. So thank you so much, Brian. I totally forgot about that, man. You saved my life. Saved my life. Yes, it is awesome, Vicky. So cool, Brian. Thank you guys so much. I hope you guys got a lot of information out of that. It's I love all these light shaping tools, and I love hanging out with you guys and showing them to you. So if you guys have anything that you want to see on these Facebook Lives, drop me a message. Shoot something in the comments. I check them all out to make sure if I miss anybody, I'll go back and I'll manually type in a reply to you guys. So, but if you want to see anything in particular, tell me what you want to see, and we'll do it. I love doing this stuff. So in the meantime, thanks for spending a Saturday afternoon with me. I hope you guys are having an awesome weekend so far. Like I said, for anyone who came and saw me at WPPI, thank you for taking the time and coming and chatting with me. It was so awesome seeing you. In the meantime, we have another live next week, next Fridays, and we got some cool stuff planned. So have an awesome rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next Friday. Later.